I think that there's this common misconception that in order to get better, it has to be painful, and that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
if I'm going in for a massage, I don't wanna feel like I'm experiencing internal bleeding
Yeah. Yeah.
because my body's not going to respond properly to that. Stretching should feel like, you wake up in the morning and you're kinda sore, you get, like, good stretch and it
Yeah.
feels good. That's how it should be.
On today's episode of Here for Cheer, we have my friend, Kat Haley. She is the owner of Kat Haley Cheerleading and the Kat Haley Method. She's got 25 plus years in the industry as an athlete, as a coach, and as a mentor. She travels around the country and she is in person and virtually training athletes on proper flexibility and jump training. She's also speaking at conferences, visiting gyms, helping them implement programs that are safe and effective for their athletes. She's a rock star. She's real. She's honest and raw. I love that so much about her. And she has also been a high level athlete in our sport. So she is just the total package. I am so honored and so grateful to have you here today with us. And I know that it's going to be an amazing episode with so many good things for our listeners. So, welcome, Kat Haley, to the show.
Awesome, Megan. Thank you
Woo!
so much for having me. We talked about, your new little project a month ago, and I just can't believe it's here.
I know.
You're putting your best foot forward, and I'm so, so proud to be a part of it.
Oh, I love you for that. So, just to kind of give us a little bit of background, can you tell us kind of your story, your journey in falling in love with the sport of cheerleading?
Sure. So cheerleading was actually a last resort for me. As an athlete or as a young athlete, I tried every sport imaginable. My dad was a race car driver. My mom was not an athlete. So I tried t-ball, basketball, soccer, tap dance, all of the things, and just none of it was clicking for me. So um, my cousin wanted to start doing rec cheerleading, and whatever she did, I did. So I said, I'll do it. So, little did we know what that decision would do for my life. So,
Mm.
I started out at a small rec program. I was there for a couple years. My then home gym opened up in 2003 called Planet Cheer. I was there for 10 years. I was actually the first athlete to sign up in the program.
Oh,
And
love
those
that.
gym owners are still a part of my life. I Those 10 years were not filled with a lot of wins or accolades, but it was just filled with just good life lessons and, the importance of kind of that family feel in a gym that I feel like is so lost now,
Mhm. Yeah.
but, my heart is still with those coaches. So, when I was 18, I was like, "All right, I need to, like, finish my cheer career strong." So, I called up Roger Chandra at the Stingray All-Stars, and I said, "Hey, I'm just a girl from Maine, and I really wanna be on Orange." And he said, "Well, we don't do that." And I said, "Well, you're gonna." So,
Yeah.
at the time, I had had several knee injuries. I had torn my ACL twice, I had torn my meniscus twice. That was my 3rd meniscus tear my senior year. I don't even know, there were just so many of them. So, I'd actually had knee surgery for that, and all I had for tryout video was, Infinity Legends had just become a thing. So, I
Mhm.
had tryout for Infinity Legends, sent that video to Roger, ended up becoming the first out-of-state athlete to make Orange, which is so crazy. I
Yeah.
can't even believe there's a video that popped up that was 12 years ago, which is so
That's
nuts.
wild.
So,
And a small town New England girl who
small
just
town.
had big dreams. I love that so much for you. What did your parents think when you said, "Hey, I'm moving and I'm moving to Georgia"?
It was really, really tough. So I'm from a town with 2,000 people. And I joke in my conferences that I say we're all related, but we are truly all related. If you go through our town, there's like pockets of families that all live next to each other. So my mom's one of 8. We all live next to each other. you kind of grow up in the town and you stay there, and it's a great like, it's a great place, but I just had huge cheer goals. So, emotionally, it was incredibly tough on the 3 of us, on
Mhm.
my parents and I. We were very, very close, and, it was not easy. This is not easy, but my mom was sort of the driving force that was like, "We're doing it," you know? She was fully supportive of me wanting to, live out my dream, and she was definitely my backbone. So,
I love that. Let's give it up for those
um
moms that,
yes, she
like,
was
just are there and support you through all of those things, even though she probably was so scared for you to
so
go and didn't
scared,
want you to, but,
and
um,
she hit it really well.
uh,
She hit it really well. We've had a lot of conversations since then to say, "That was so crazy." So, but yeah, so I ended up, we had an undefeated season that year, which
yes.
was, you know, it was just like divine intervention, I think,
Mhm.
for me to be put in that position. I went to Kennesaw State University just because it was 10 minutes away from the gym. I
Okay.
really just
Yeah.
wanted to go be a part of Stingrays, to be honest.
Yeah.
I worked at the gym for a few years, won a lot of things.
I love that.
I actually got really sick and had to move home.
Mm.
And that's where I sort of, in my early 20s, I'm very open about this story. In my early 20s, I didn't know what my path was going to look like in cheerleading. I knew I didn't want to own a gym. All you gym owners, my hat goes off to you. You have the toughest job in the world.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't want to coach teams anymore. And so I almost just quit cheerleading altogether because I was just in such a, not that transition from being an athlete to not being an athlete is not talked about enough. It's very, very difficult. So that transition was really tough for me. I ended up taking a few months off, and really the only skill I had was cheerleading. So I popped back in. I started doing some lessons at the gym, which became Element All Stars. And I started Cat Haley cheerleading just to do some choreo on the side. Did that for a while, but as you get older, working in cheerleading is really tough
Mhm.
because when you want to like find a companion,
Ye
it's really tough to go on a date at noontime on a
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yes.
So these were some of the battles I was experiencing as a young adult was like,
Yeah.
how can I have a more normalized life?
Mhm.
The hours are very unusual for kind of people in general,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So
We
I
shouted out those
started
mamas, we can shout out our partners too, that and our families that
Yes,
put up with this crazy cheer life. I mean, we wouldn't trade it for anything, but it is. It's missing a lot of time with family and friends and barbecues and things after dinner,
yes,
that you're like, "We don't actually eat dinner as a family. We're eating it on the run or at 9 o'clock at night," and, yeah, it's a
absolutely,
crazy life, but, yeah, but a good one that I know that we're
absolutely.
both grateful for. And then so going
Yes,
back to kinda your time at Stingrays, what was it like to be an athlete from Maine, where I'm assuming you were probably one of the best, and then getting thrown into the mix with all of these probably super talented, incredible athletes? What was that like?
it was so tough. It was so tough.
I bet.
I
Scary.
would argue it humbly, I think that I made it look easier than what it was.
Mhm.
Um, Orange was a very special team within the gym. There's still obviously a very special team within the
Yeah.
gym, but to be on Orange, you had to have cheered at the gym at some point
Mhm.
before you were even considered for the team. So those girls that were on the team had been together for years. And then I'm just this girl that just like loves cheerleading, wants to be on this team. And I'm coming from a place where it was a huge culture shock. Huge culture shock. My high school had a graduating class of 105 kids, 4 towns in one high school with 105 kids. Everyone knows each other.
Mhm.
Nothing bad ever happens.
You
It's
leave your
very
doors
like
unlocked.
you leave
Small
your
town
doors
life.
unlocked. Like
Yeah.
it's very much like Little House on the Prairie, honestly. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, which has
Yeah.
more people than the entire state of Maine. And wow. I'm from this like middle class farm town, and I get put on this team with these girls who have like extreme wealth.
Mhm.
They are baddies,
Oh, yeah.
They are hardcore, they are baddies. And honestly, um, I wasn't welcomed very easily because I was an outsider.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I get
sure.
it. I get
Yes,
it. In
100%. Yes.
in the moment, I didn't understand because I'm like, "Hey, like
Yeah.
I love that. I love this too, you know?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I get it because when you have kind of formed that group and then
Oh
all of a
god.
sudden someone comes in, you don't know who they are, you don't know if they're gonna fit in, you don't know what the dynamics are gonna be. I do understand. So I had to learn a completely different style of cheerleading. I had to jump differently. I had to land my tumbling differently. I had to approach my tumbling differently on top of the fact that I'm now living in a different state and a different culture. And that's what I think a lot of athletes don't think about is it's okay to have those big dreams, to
Mhm.
go and, be a part of something bigger than yourself. But you also have to consider you're not just going to practice, you're living your life in a brand new place. So I will say living in Kennesaw was amazing. Very safe place, lots of stuff to do. Um, just everything's really nice and new and pretty. So, those things were great. But being on Orange as an outsider was really, really tough. The
I'm
culture has
sure.
actually very much changed because there's so many
Now it's the
athletes
norm.
now it's the norm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, there's so many athletes from all over the place, all over the world. There's
Mhm.
actually an athlete from Finland that's on
Wow.
Orange this year, which is I love that so much. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. But now Kennesaw State's collegiate team is phenomenal.
Uh-huh.
So now people are going to KSU and super senioring or they're doing the
Yep.
electric route. So now it's very, very normal within the gym, but I kind of started it.
I
I
love
kinda
that, and
started it,
honestly, I
which
had
is
no idea
crazy.
that you were the first one. That's wild, and you and I have
Yeah,
had the conversation because 'cause I'm a mom, and I have
we're
daughters who cheer, and we've talked and they're passionate, and they love it, and they eat, sleep, breathe all the things, and, we've talked of how important it is to have that balance of having an identity that's not just cheerleading, that at the end of the day, they may be incredible athletes and so good and, looked up to in the sport, but at the end of the day, they need to have something else to like, because one day cheerleading could end. Our goal always, I think, is lifelong love of cheerleading. That's mine. I want the kids in my program to love cheerleading beyond their time in the walls of Northern Lights. I want them to maybe find a career in some way like you, that you can continue to do what you love, or whether it be in the industry in another way, as a judge, an event producer, designing fashion. I mean, I think we're so lucky to do what we love still. We
for
sacrifice a lot
sure.
for it, but I'm so grateful, and that's what I want to kinda inspire other kids to do. But yeah, it is important to know that you're worth something more than your tumbling skill or your ability on the cheer floor, and I totally agree with you that it's not talked
Yes,
about enough, and I'm so proud of you to come out on the other side, because I know it, and I've talked to kids that have graduated from our program and cheered in college super competitively and then are like, "What now?" It's I don't
absolutely.
understand then when I'm not working out all the time and my body changes and, like, it's a ton of pressure and yeah, there needs
It's
to be more, talk about that for sure.
well, and this isn't like and all due respect to these sports, this isn't like
Mhm.
golf or skiing that you can do it for the rest of your life, you know?
Mhm.
We are flipping our bodies and
Yes.
bending our bodies in half. And yeah, I love this conversation because I wish that I could have had this conversation with myself in my early
Mhm.
20s. It's so easy to fall in love with this sport and put every ounce of your life into it. But to kind of like dig deep into my personal life, I'd never even had a boyfriend till I was 22 years old because I just was married to cheerleading. And that transition, because I never allowed myself to have true balance, was really, really tough.
I bet.
Kind of like stepping into the real world and being like, how do I have conversations with people that aren't about cheerleading?
Yeah. Yes.
How do I
Yes.
go
Yes.
like, again, how am I supposed to go on a date? Like, what do I even talk about? Like, do you wanna talk about world's results? Like, what's your favorite tumbling pass, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, now that I have, and it took years for me to find and appreciate the balance of life that I do my travels, like we talked about at the beginning. I'm actually in
Mhm.
Kansas right now, but I will go home next week. I'll go home on Sunday night or Monday morning. I haven't decided yet. And make sure that I'm spending time with Corey and I'm spending
Yes.
time in my house and seeing my nephews and my family, um, because that is my number one priority in life is my
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I love
So
that, and it's so true. As an entrepreneur, the grind does not stop. Like, you're constantly on,
doesn't
and I know
stop.
it. I mean, I see you're traveling and giving and giving and giving and giving, and it's so important that you make that time to focus in with your family, and yeah, it's hard. It is really hard, but you're making it look easy, and I'm so proud of you for that.
I appreciate that. Well, again, I learned at a really young age how easy it is to get burnt out. Um, I think that something else that isn't discussed or realized is when you're an athlete, cheerleading is your outlet. You have a bad day at school, you have a bad day at home, go to the gym. I mean, I'm sure you have seen this over the years. You just have kids that don't even take a class. They just want to go hang out with their friends. They just want to be there. They just want to hang out, and that was me. If I had a bad day, even if I didn't have a bad day, I just wanted to be in the gym because it was just my happy place. But
Yes.
then when you transition from it being your hobby to your job,
Mhm.
you almost have to find a new outlet because even though you still love cheerleading, it's now your job. It's not your
Yes.
hobby. So
Yes.
I mean, admittedly, I still really haven't found a hobby. I love sitting on my couch.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good one. That's a good
I
one.
love just like hanging out on my couch and eating my dinner and watching my shows. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I love
really
that.
important to have who was it? Oh my god, what's his name from Star Athletics? Lee
Yes.
Grobstein.
Lovely. He's amazing.
He is like shout out to Lee, he is amazing.
Yes.
I
Yes.
haven't forgotten this. He runs one of the best, I would say even maybe the best program on the East Coast,
He's amazing.
lower levels. They are
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying at Varsity University last year that he has a huge passion for tennis. And I was like, you do something outside of cheerleading?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I was mind blown, and I haven't
Yeah.
forgotten that. I haven't forgotten that. I'm
I
like,
love that.
I need to find my tennis. It's
Yeah.
probably
Maybe
not
a
tennis, I'm not
pickleball.
good at tennis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, I love that.
yeah.
Okay, so circling back to now you've got Cat Haley cheerleading, you've got the Cat Haley method. What kind of inspired you to specialize in that flexibility thing? Because I mean, you truly are the best. I mean, everyone knows it. You're the best when you want to safely train, when you want something that works and has proven results, it's you. People reach out to you and find you. So, what
Thank
inspired
you.
you to kind of focus in on flexibility, which is not glamorous? Like stretching and those kind of things and even jumps, they're not glamorous. They're not something we focus
Mm-mm.
enough in on as gym owners and as coaches. We
Right.
forget about it, but it makes or breaks the
It
division
totally does.
sometimes, more than not. So, yeah, what inspired you to be the flex queen?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. So when I had moved home because I was so sick, I wasn't working for 3 months, and I had no money, so I was just using my credit card because I had
Mhm.
no money. Well, I'm 22 years old, I don't understand credit cards, right? Well, the interest rate was so high, and then later on, my mom's like, "Have you seen your credit card bill?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Bro, like, what are you doing?" So, I had
Live
all
it,
this
mom.
debt. Yeah, I'm like,
Living.
I didn't spend that much money."
Yeah.
She's like, "It don't matter."
Yeah.
So So I had a lot of debt. So I'm in this place, I'm super lost, nothing feels right in my life, and I'm like, I need to like do something crazy. So I start dating Corey, who is 3.5 hours away from my house. Mind you, I live in a small town, you don't leave the town. I call my parents up one day and I'm like, hey, I'm going to Connecticut. And they're like, what? And I'm like, if it goes great, I'll be back Monday. And if it doesn't go great, I'll be back tomorrow. And they're like, so flustered by this, right?
Yeah.
So, mind you, I'd known Corey, I knew his parents,
Mhm.
whatever. So, like, literally instantly, we're like, all right, we're, you know, we're life partners.
We're meant to be. We're doing it.
We're
I
meant
love
to be.
that.
So, Corey and I are long distance. Okay. So, I'm driving to him every weekend because, I work at the gym. I can come back on Mondays, whatever. Well, COVID happens. Okay. COVID
Mhm.
happens. I'm in Connecticut. I can't cross state lines. And I am like, how am I going to pay my bills?
Mhm.
So I'm like, I do this free jumps class just for fun. And in 2 days, I had 20,000 views on it, which was a lot for me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting at dinner with my now in-laws, and my father-in-law says, "Imagine if you would have charged all those people $5." And I'm like, "I can pay off my credit card."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "All right, my one true love is tumbling, but I'm not teaching flips in kids' living rooms. Not doing it. It has to be safe."
Mhm.
So I'd had experience with jumps. I had experience with flexibility, and I'm like, I think this is going to be our safest bet. So I start working with kids from all over the country. In 2 weeks, I have a 400-person wait list. And mind
Wow.
you, I'm charging $10 for 30 minutes because I really want to be considerate of the fact that people aren't working,
Mhm.
right? So I'm like, I need to, number one, protect these kids to make sure what I'm teaching is truly correct. And number two, I need to protect myself as a business owner to make sure that I'm teaching these kids correctly. I
Yes.
start doing all this research about the body. And I'm like, we have been doing everything wrong.
Mhm.
I'm very math brained, left brain for life. I love to have a process for everything. So I'm like, I'm going to develop a process that just hits home.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit of trial and error, figured it out, was starting to work for literally every single kid that worked with me. Obviously, you have those outliers, right?
Mhm.
Scoliosis situations, whatever. And it just blew up. Um,
And you've
and
changed
then
lives for the better with it. Like, you've made such a difference.
it's
Something that
been
I'm sure you didn't think would be this successful business and you as a successful entrepreneur, but there's a reason why
it's
you're that 40 under 40 of Cheer Daily nominee.
thank you.
Little shout out for
It
that. I mean, that's incredible.
Thank
And it
you.
is, you're making a difference in the industry in such a positive
It's been
way.
crazy. It has
Mhm.
literally changed my life. And I think that for me, the driving force behind making sure that these kids were safe is obviously
Mhm.
because I'm a coach and that's something that we should all want.
Yes.
However, I have suffered 3 ACL tears, 3 meniscus tears. I've had 5 total knee surgeries, and the dent that did to my mental health was awful. It was truly, it put me in such a dark place, and I'm just so passionate about ensuring that kids don't experience that same thing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy how those setbacks set me up to kind of develop my career.
Yeah. How
Now
cool.
I've like unintentionally become this like flex guru,
You
and
are.
I don't I don't I don't make a life plan anymore. I don't make a life plan anymore because I've learned that like it doesn't matter what you plan, the universe is gonna just
Do their thing.
do their thing, you
And
know?
good things
So,
happen to good people. I believe that.
thank you.
And with like pure intentions and I love that it came that way. What is the most rewarding part of this job? Of you being able to connect with kids virtually? I mean, thank goodness COVID, I think, opened up so much for us to be able to even just communicate virtually. I know
For
for parent
sure.
meetings and things for me in the gym, I can now hop on a live or hop on, and like it makes such a difference. But yeah, what's the
Absolutely.
most rewarding part for you?
I value connections so much.
Mhm.
Like you are one of my people that I value so much,
Mm.
just in the Northeast region in
Right
general,
back at you,
because
girl.
thank you. I just love having those true, deep
Mhm.
connections with people because we need it. Life is hard. And
Mhm.
having the opportunity to meet these superstar athletes, and I'm not even talking talent wise, I'm talking drive
Mhm.
from all over the world has been just amazing because we talked about this at one of the conferences. I spoke at a conference in June that Corey Rickett was at. And
Mhm.
Corey talked about how there's four different types of athletes. And essentially, there's 1% of athletes that are your like, it's called the champion mindset athletes. And that was always me. And I always just craved that out of other athletes
Mhm.
because that's just how my brain operates. And seeing so many of them come out of the woodworks has been like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you're like my people,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
giving kids a chance to shine in cheer in a different way, I think, is so special too, and you probably don't even realize that impact, but we're always focused on, like, amazing stunting or amazing tumbling, and, like, you're giving
Yes.
kids a chance to be that point jumper, and, maybe they aren't the
Yes.
best tumbler or the best at stunting, but, like, they can be point jumper, or they can be the kid with great flexibility that
For
just
sure.
and we know that flexibility ties into every other component of cheerleading. It truly,
For sure.
it's in everything. So it's so important and one of those missed steps that, yeah, for you to kind of help the industry get it right is
Yes.
awesome. And I mean, I hope you know the waves that you've created and just it's amazing, just the effect
Thank you.
and that you've had on people is so good. And so like with training, I know for years we struggle with, okay, do we make them take pictures every week to make sure they're stretching at home? We always I always didn't want the parents to have to stretch their kid. I wanted that relationship of mom being mom and not having to be the
Absolutely.
mean one to be like, you need to stretch before practice today. And that's always been really hard for us personally within our program. What are, the things that you feel that work best for gaining that flexibility? Like, how does this Cat Healy method work? Is it the fact that you are the one that are able to do that instruction, and build those connections and be that person? Or is it just using your video series? Like, tell me more about that.
So the Cat Haley method, I always tell people it's set up like a beach body program or like an online college course. So it's 10 weeks, and every couple of weeks, there's a checkpoint. I try to make everything as easy and simple to follow as possible. I developed something called the 7-step process. So athletes knew, okay, I can achieve this. I'm able to move on to work on to this next step. Because what I have found is like, I love tumbling because it's very clear on what you need to master before you move forward. You have
Mhm.
to have a strong handstand before a cartwheel, before a round off, before a back walkover, before a back handspring, et cetera, et cetera. But when it came to body positions, we've always been like, just figure it out.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
never a clear
Stretch.
system to follow.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
number 1, that's probably the most crucial part of my process is there's an actual system to follow. So you're not just kicking your leg up and wondering if you're doing it right.
Mhm.
Number 2, something I teach the athletes is that flexibility is actually neurological. It actually comes from our brain. So to kind of put things into simple terms, I tell the kids we have all these wires that run through our body called your nervous system. And when you stretch and you kind of feel that natural stop happen, that's your nervous system alerting your brain either A, this is unfamiliar territory to me. I'm not used to doing this. Or
Mhm.
two, I don't think I'm strong enough to do this position. Our brain responds to or our brain allows our body to get flexible faster when our muscles are stronger.
Mhm.
So it's all about stretching after you do those intense workouts. And we so often think that it's just all about pushing, pushing, pushing on the athlete. But everything I do is hands off. Originally, the reason it was hands off was because again, I like you, I wanted the mom to be able to like go do whatever she needs to do for 30 or 40 minutes.
Mhm.
But 2, it was COVID and we couldn't touch anyone anyway. So so it all actually kind of worked out. So everything's hands off. It is strength based. It is proper stretching based on yoga and physical therapy. And outside of that, there is a private group that people can reach me, post their progress, ask questions, and the whole community has just been so awesome.
Mhm.
Um, People ask really smart questions. I see other parents commenting on other kids' photos saying, "This looks awesome." Like,
Oh,
it's
yay.
just been such a positive thing. And I think that our industry has the tendency to get, catty and
Mhm.
negative. And so, I'm just constantly reminding the parents, like, hey, thank you for keeping this a positive place because that's only going to make things easier and better for everybody at the end of the day. So
Absolutely. I love that so much. So what do you think the biggest mistake that parents, gym owners, coaches make when it comes to, flexibility training?
I think number one, just lack of a process in general.
Mhm.
I remember growing up. Well, I mean, we grew up I know I grew up in a time where there really wasn't a lot of education. Debbie Love was kind of introducing proper training into the world, but it was still pretty foreign. I remember
Yeah.
going over to the wall and someone would just take my leg and shove it up next to my back, and but we didn't know what we were doing. So number 1, I think lack of a clear process. So, we need to make sure we have our splits all the way down. We need to make sure our grips are correct. And then number 2, just being so handsy on the kids. I think that um, like PNF stretching, where you kind of apply pressure to, like let's say I want to like stretch this part of my neck. I'm going to push on this part of my head, but I'm going to fight with my head the opposite
Mhm.
direction. Okay. Then that type of stretching is great. It's
Mhm.
totally healthy, it's totally normal, but I think that there's this common misconception that in order to get better, it has to be painful, and that just doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
if I'm going in for a massage, I don't wanna feel like I'm experiencing internal bleeding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my body's not going to respond properly to that. Stretching should feel like, you wake up in the morning and you're kind of sore, you get like good stretch and it
Yeah.
feels good. That's how it should be. It should feel good.
Mhm.
It should not stress athletes out.
Yes. You said something to me when I'm so lucky to have had so many conversations with you, just picking your brain and, talking shop. And you had said that in gymnastics and tumbling, that it makes so much sense that the handstand is like that crucial component that when you've got a great handstand, it goes into everything else. It's like it's that important piece. And then when it comes to flexibility, you had said that splits were, that's kind of like what you need for great flexibility and stretching, and I
For
mean, that
sure.
was like my brain. I brought it back to my staff. I was like, "I never thought of it this way. We need to make sure, that we're taking time at the end of practice to go over these things and, talk about the importance of splits." And it was, like, totally mind-blowing to me. So, I
For
totally
sure.
get, and no one has done that. No one has come up with a process, has come up with the training, and then so now I know that you do the kinda individualized things, for athletes that they can virtually or in person kind of work with you. But now you have a system for gyms. Can you tell me a little bit more
Yes.
about that?
Yes. So this is still sort of a newer process that we're kind of working out the kinks, but I think so far we're on the right path.
Mhm.
Essentially, for anyone that wants to sign up for the gym program, your athletes can get the Cat Haley method at bulk pricing. I really want athletes. I mean, number one, I'm a business owner. Business owners obviously want to make their money.
Mhm.
However, I really want athletes to utilize this because I just know it works and I know it's going to make them better. So essentially, it just works with bulk pricing. So you send me the number of athletes that you have enrolled, I send you a price. It ranges from $100 to $150 an athlete. And I've had programs from the US and Canada enroll so far. And like I said, it's been really, really successful, but we're still kind of working out the kinks, which is, it's a part of the process, right? I want to make sure my number one focus is that gyms and athletes get the most out of my program. So, We had 100 athletes from True Athletics Charlotte sign up, which is
Amazing.
literally insane.
Yeah.
All 4 from Frisco, Texas.
Yeah.
We have a couple gyms from Canada that have enrolled.
Amazing. Yeah.
So,
Really
like I said,
special.
we're just trying to, put this in programs because number 1, obviously it works. I am, so confident in what the Cat Haley method is.
Yeah, and you
Um,
should be.
but number 2, it's really, really hard. I'm actually very anti flex class in the gym because flexibility is a very special process. And I always encourage people to think very literal. I want your athlete to put their leg next to their spine and they're only going to flex class once a week.
Yeah.
It's kind of like weight loss, right? If I
Yes.
work out once a week, I'm probably not going to lose any weight, right?
Yes.
So, what
Yes.
happens in most gyms is number 1, they don't have the space. Number 2, they don't have the time. And even if they do have the space and time, they don't really have a great person that truly knows what they're doing to run it. So,
Yes.
you put a junior coach, no offense to the junior coach, they're also
Yeah, yeah,
important,
yeah.
but you put a junior coach that maybe doesn't have that experience yet, and it's just unproductive.
Yes.
Right? It
Yeah.
requires so much delicate, attention. So, again, this allows your athletes to progress the way they should, and in my opinion, that then allows your flex class to become more of a flyer performance class, and they can
Ooh,
maintain their body positions, they can
yeah.
work on the strength training, they can work on, what is needed for their teams, and to me, that
Mhm.
is a more valuable use of time than, you know, Susie, who attends flex class once a week for 12 months and she can't even get past a Dorito.
Mhm. No,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. So what is a way that you suggest for gyms to keep it fun? Because like I said, flex is not necessarily
I know.
fun all the time. It is something that you have to really dedicate to, and some kids are born more, genetically more flexible than others, and that can be challenging and frustrating. And yeah, so but like what would be the number one thing to help make either the Cat Haley method and getting people bought into it to keep it fun and exciting, and like what ways can we as gym owners make it fun?
For sure. We are living in a time where people value instant gratification. And listen, I love to complain about my kids that like instant gratification, but I'm guilty as charged. Like, I would also like, to be a millionaire tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so I get it. Like, we all have our thing that we want tomorrow.
Yes.
So, my thing is, how can we celebrate the athlete as much as possible? Something I've realized as an adult is that when you're young, there's so many things that you're constantly celebrating. So, like, you get an A on a test, or you get a new skill in the gym, or whatever, those type of categories. As an adult, the amount of times you celebrate something are so far less because the
Yeah.
process you're not going to have $100,000 in your IRA tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that takes years and years and years.
Uh-huh.
So my thing is how can we celebrate the athlete as many times as possible? So with the 7-step process, the first couple of steps are intended to be really easy. So your athletes that have absolutely zero flexibility, that are nervous to try it, they're going to be able to do those first couple of steps right
And
out the bat.
celebrate. I love
Right out
that.
the bat. And they're going to be able to say to themselves, "Oh my god,
I can do
I
this.
can do this."
Yeah.
Because right, we look at someone with a straight leg scorpion and we say, "I got to do that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But if we can do those first couple of steps, it will encourage us to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's number
That's
1. And
beautiful.
then
I love
number
that.
2, when your athlete gets their needle or they get their bow and arrow, keeping I like to number 2 things. Sorry, 2 things.
Oh, I love
Number
this.
1, I like to have a poster so that way all the names are on the side and
Mhm.
you have all 7 steps, and every time they get their step, check it off. Every
Love
time
it.
they get their step, check it off. So that way they can see their process or their progress and say, "Okay, I really am getting
Yeah, I'm
somewhere."
doing it. It's
So
working. Yeah.
it's an encouragement thing. And then when they get their needle or they get their bow and arrow, make a big deal about it.
Mhm.
Have the needle club and have a
Yes.
poster on your
T-shirt
wall.
or Yeah, I
I have
love
a
that.
t-shirt. I actually have t-shirts that say, "I got my needle with Cat Haley cheerleading."
Oh,
So
I love that.
make a
Yep.
big deal over it, whether that's like, I don't know, giving them a t-shirt, putting them on the
Mhm.
wall, giving them $25 for your pro shop,
Yeah,
whatever.
something to
Having
celebrate. I love
We
it.
always need, like, I think I do a bad job at celebrating myself because 'cause I'm always, like, looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
But even as adults, it's important to be like, "You know what? Like, I'm gonna go ahead and reward myself with
Yeah,
the expensive shoes I've been looking at because I've been working really hard."
you
You know,
have.
we have
Yeah.
we have to celebrate the kids. And
Mhm.
those are just a few of my ways that I like to do that.
I love that. Okay, so one more thing. If an athlete was to, be listening and be able to implement something right now every day that they could do to help them become better, in flex, what would that one thing be that you would, recommend for them?
Hip flexibility. So we often think that back flexibility comes from our back, but it
Mhm.
actually comes from our hip. So when I explain to people, I'll put my leg forward. So, pretend I'm doing a heel stretch right now. This is not a heel stretch. I say, if I'm doing a heel stretch, am I stretching the back of my leg or my stomach? And people look at me and they're like, the back of your leg, obviously, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, correct. So now if I'm putting my leg behind me, am I stretching my hip or my back? And they're like, your back. And I'm like, mm-mm, your hip.
Mhm.
Because the only thing that's moving is your leg.
Mhm.
So, removing those crazy bridges and back bends and like contortionist stuff
Yeah.
is number one, way safer for your body. Number two, it's actually not doing anything for you. And number three, we have to really dig deep into those deep hip flexor stretches. So, that's going to remove lower back pain. It's going to help you progress faster. And like I said, I always tell my athletes, if you're on Instagram or TikTok and you see something that looks crazy,
It
like
is.
it looks like it'll be in Cirque du Soleil, it's because it is crazy and you shouldn't do
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love it. And then is there an age that, you recommend athletes start with your method? Like how old should they be? I mean, we've got kiddos cheering now when they're 3 years old. So what age is a
yes.
good age for them to start working, your flex program?
So these days I've been recommending 7 or 8. I had
Mhm.
originally been recommending age 5. The reason is because in gymnastics world, it is actually sort of against coaching guidelines to do bridges for athletes under the age of 5 for development reasons. So
Yes.
for me, I always said, all right, well, in that case, then we can start at 5. What I have learned pretty quickly is that it's a lot. Like it is expecting athletes to do body positions is a lot. So, can athletes start at 5 and 6? Yes, I think you have to know your kid, and whether or not they can handle it, but as kind of a general rule, I've been kind of leaning more towards 7 and 8.
Yeah. I love it. And then this whole Cat Haley method, is it only for body positions? Is this also for kids that want to become, better at jumps? We know that flexibility is a huge piece of that. Uh, Tell me like who this is really targeted for.
So right now it's specifically targeted for flyer flexibility and jumps training. I actually have a few mini series out. I just
Ooh,
released a wrist strengthening series.
love that.
I have a few projects that I'm going to be working on when my travel sort of clears up. So
Yeah.
my goal in the future is to be able to create more series that target everybody in the sport instead of just those flyers. So if you are not a flyer, stay tuned because I have some fun ideas I'll be working on.
That's amazing. I love that. Oh, this has been so great. Okay, my last final question for you is just giving one piece of advice to our listeners, one takeaway. I mean, you've given so many in terms of all of the flex things but just being a person in our industry and, who's worked with so many programs, spoken at so many conferences, your impact is so great. What would be one piece of advice you could kind of leave everybody with that we need to do better as an industry or like one thing we could stop doing, start doing, all of those kind of great things.
I think just find the right people. I think it took me a long time and I'm still learning about finding my circle. I'm so
Mhm.
blessed that I consider you very much a part of my circle. Find your people, but also make sure that you're wise about what information you are taking in. I think that just like everything in life, especially with diet culture, right? There's hundreds of different diets out there. And a lot of them are not awesome,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that same thing goes in our sport that, to be really direct, just because someone has a lot of followers may not mean that the material is correct. So
Mhm.
just be
Yes.
really,
Mic
really
drop. I love that. That's a great
girl,
one. Yeah.
girl, like, don't look at the followers, look at the material and ask questions, right? So find your people, find the right community, make sure you're being wise about the information that you're taking in. And just remember that this is a process. I feel like I could write a book about what not to do. And I think just giving yourself grace that you're going to have people that maybe fall out of your circle, or you're maybe the way you teach may change, allowing that sort of natural process to happen is important, not just for coaching, but just life. So
Yeah. I love that. You are the most beautiful, amazing human being that I'm so grateful that you've been here with us. How can people get in touch with you if they, are ready to jump and get their program signed up for the Cat Haley method or, just reach you directly?
yes, so you can follow me on Facebook at Cat Haley Cheerleading. Same thing with Instagram at Cat Haley Cheerleading. My TikTok, I'm trying to change the handle to Cat Haley Cheerleading, but it's currently the Cat Haley method. But if you ever need anything, my girl Gina, who runs all my emails, she is amazing. You can contact her at info@cathaleycheerleading.com. I can do clinics. I can do staff training. You can sign up for
You
the
do it
Cat
all, and
Haley
I love it. We're so
method,
lucky. The industry is so
all of the
lucky to have
things.
you. Yeah,
Oh,
we need more
likewise,
people like
Megan.
you just willing to share and, educate, and, we've had, like I said, so many wonderful conversations. You're amazing. You're real, you're honest, you're raw, you're not afraid to, share your experience, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens of every point of your journey, and I think that that is so rare and special,
Thank you.
and it means so much for me to call you my friend and to have had you on here today. Thank you to all of our listeners tuning in. We hope that you loved today's show. I know I have so many takeaways that are valuable and that we can work to implement in our program, and I love it. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all the things of our podcast, please, here for Cheer, so we can continue to reach people and get amazing people on like Kat Haley.
Megan, thank you so much. I'm so excited for this project you've started, and I think it's going to blow up and be an amazing thing for the industry. So I am honored to be episode 2,
Yes.
and I am
Juice.
like so ready for the rest of the series you produce. So
Ah, I love it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you next time.